Coming to you from Austin, Texas, on this hellishly hot day, it's Color Commentary, and we are Adrian Guarzales.
And Michael Pechek. Yeah, so we went to F&M last night together.
Here we are again, although we kind of missed two F&Ms because we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Do one last time, but whatever. I will say that an unnamed warrior, wizard, what have you, has asked that I not reveal that I defeated him or her twice now at each F&M, so I will not reveal their identity.
It was me. It was me. We got paired. We got paired first round.
No, it wasn't you.
Oh, it wasn't me?
No.
Oh. Now we'll talk about that after the show. I'm curious,
yes.
we did play the first round.
Yes.
So I think we figured out it's been something like 5 months or something since we played at an actual sanctioned event against each other. So it's kind of neat, but
it was fun.
What were you on?
I was playing the best deck in the format, which is Affinity, which I have fully foiled.
Yep.
So let that sink in, audience. Somewhere out there is a guy with a fully foiled Affinity deck, and it is amazing.
To be fair, I've seen quite a few people fully foiled Delver, which also seems ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, that seems incredibly expensive.
I think foil preordains are something like $30.
Yeah, well, and you have Days.
Ooh.
Gush.
Gush isn't that bad. Gush is like 25, and it's only a one of.
I don't know. Yeah, they're expensive.
Point being, you fully foiled your deck. It looks sweet. We put a picture of it on the Twitter.
Yeah. I went 3-1. My only loss was to Delver.
What were your matchups? You played against me round 1, then round 2
was.
Were you against one of the many mono black players?
Yeah, I played against a mono black deck, which was fine. He didn't have Oubliette. I played against.
That's a pretty big swing there because Oubliette does actually kill your
chairs.
stuff. Ooh, yeah.
So I mean, it was a rough beat. There was also a turn that like game 1 was like pretty straightforward. Game 2 was something like I like land drum, then like second drum husk, Frogmite Thoughtcast, and then like Mirror Enforcer at some point.
Oh yeah,
so
you had to just dump 16 power onto the board in one turn kind of turn.
Yeah, it was going to be an uphill battle for him.
Yeah,
I lost to Delver, and I played against Teachings.
Yeah, and you got to spitefully blow up artifact lands. I hear.
So our Teachings player doesn't actually have a win condition in his deck. It's basically playing 2 Pristine Talismans so that he can play his Evankar's Justices at no life loss to himself.
Adrian, that is a win con. It's dealing you 2 damage a turn.
I mean, can that be considered a win con? I submit to you, our greater audience. I'm not 100% certain. I mean, it works. It's sort of like the old school lands deck, right, where they try to win by looping Barbarian Ring. I have no idea why you would do that, but you can, right? Like you can. It's just why. But anyway, I brought in the Ancient Grudge thinking I'll blow up these Pristine Talismans, I'll eliminate one of his best ways to win the game, and then at some point he played a Vault of Whispers, and I said, wow, that seems like a good target for this Ancient Grudge that I'm currently holding. Sure enough, it was.
Well, I'm assuming it was tech for the mono black matchup with Wrenchmind.
Yes,
but all right, so you had a pretty good time. I wound up going 2-2 at the end of the night. Lost my first game against you. I was on Grixis Metalcraft, which is actually going to be our deck tech, but I feel like I should recap how my night went. So I lost against you on Affinity. I lost against someone playing Stompy. Stompy just real fast right now. So, slow, dirtily control deck just was not getting there. Then I played against, what is that deck called? Blue Steel. It runs Bant Sureblade and Esper Stormblade, and then a bunch of the 2-color enchantments from, what would that be? Shadowmoor?
Shards of Alara.
No. The Shadowmoor ones where it's like, if the creature is 1 color, +1/+1 and a bonus. If it's another color, +1/+1 and a bonus.
Yeah, there's Shadowmoor, Eventide, something like that.
Yeah.
The Steel of Godhead.
Yeah.
Favor of the Overbeing, those cards.
Yeah. Edge of the Divinity, which is a beating if it gets strapped onto the Esper guy.
Mm-hmm.
+3/+3 for 1 mana is very, very good when it's an aura. But I had enough edicts and assorted removal just to bash in. And then round 4, I was up against a Rakdos control deck, and as it turns out, you can actually just beat someone to death with an Archaeomancer. over the course of 20 turns.
I mean, the Rakdos control deck. Can you have a control deck that's not blue?
I mean, you can. Like, he gets to play, like, Lightning. He gets to play a full set of Bolts. He gets to play all sorts of, like, premium removal. And then just has a Gurmag Anglers. And he was running Trespasser Ilvec, which is a really neat card. It is a 3/1. I forget how much it costs, but you can pitch a card to it and give it Shadow. So he had a couple of Madness cards in the deck. So you can either fuel a Gurmag Angler or, get Fiery Temper for 1, build your own Bolt. And it's situational Shadow, which is really nice because it means you can have it when you need it, and when you need to actually block, you can leave the guy back. But, I went 2-2 with a brand new deck. I actually bit the bullet and bought another set of Chainer's Edicts, which are still ludicrously expensive in paper, but, it's some of the better removal in our format. Maybe not at the moment. But weirdly, we had, 3 mono black decks last night?
Yes, and to be fair, one of them was... well, no, actually, I don't think Garrett was playing mono black. 2 of the people who were playing mono black were new players.
Yes.
So I don't know how much of that is like... this is a deck that traditionally has put up results, and I can look it up, and it's not that expensive because a lot of these cards are historically good Magic cards anyway, and how much of it was them actually having experience in the format and knowing what, because we've talked before, mono black is kind of terrible right now in the Drake heavy meta. Although to be fair, not a lot of Drake decks at the store.
I was gonna say that's kind of the other side of it. I don't think anyone was playing Drake as their win con last night, which is, obviously not indicative of the meta online at all, but it was a nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah, but I was a little surprised at how many mono black decks there were. I think even at the height of that deck's popularity, it was not unbeatable.
It's kind of just a fair deck. Like, the closer it gets to an unfair card is Grey Merchant, and Grey Merchant is just a huge life swing with a
Grey
piddly
Merchant
body.
Is an astounding Magic card, it turns out. So.
I think they pretty much admitted it should have been uncommon. But, all right, so we're going to move on to the deck tech. So I played Grixis Metalcraft. I had fun with it. It is exactly my type of deck.
It's no Trinket Mage.
There's no Trinket Mage in it, and I kind of regret that because I feel like I needed more bodies on the ground quicker, just for, like, chump blocking and occasionally trading with stuff. So, tiny creature suite here. 2 Archaeomancers, 2 Beetleback Chiefs, 3 Bleak Coven Vampires. Bleak Coven Vampires is the quote-unquote Pauper Siege Rhino. 4 Muldrifters. So, lots of great value ETB effects. There is a Singleton Ghostly Flicker in the main, and you can get into really interesting states with this where you're just, end of your opponent's turn, like, creating 2 tokens and draining them for 4.
And in that same vein, I've seen Mardu-style lists of this deck where they run Core Skyfisher to get back the Bleak Coven, but I think that the Ghostly Flicker package is a lot better.
Well,
because you can
it's
flicker
instant
to
speed.
Yeah, and you can protect your guy, and you can generate a lot more value off of it.
Oh yeah, any sort of targeted removal is just kind of a little bit blanker against you.
I guess that begs the question: why are you not running Drake in this creature list? Do you just not need it?
I just kind of didn't want to. I totally could. I could just slot like maybe a 2 of Drake in here and have a combo out.
Because then you could infinitely flicker your Bleak Coven Vampire.
Yes, exactly. Which actually would make it incredibly efficient online because that's going to cut your clicks way, way down.
Yes.
On account of it being an ETB. But then for spells, we've got 4 Chainer's Edict, 3 Duresses, 4 Galv Blasts, 1 Ghostly Flicker, 2 Negate. Actually, I think the Negates are in the sideboard. 3 Pillar of Flame, 4 Prophetic Prisms, 1 Reaping the Graves, which is super spicy. We got 3 Terminate and 4 Thoughtcast. So just kind of like good artifact stuff. And the land base is just 4 of Great Furnace, 4 of Seat of the Synod, 4 Volta Whispers, and then stuff to kind of fill in the rest of the land count.
There is a 1 of Mortuary Mire.
Yeah, 1 of Mortuary Mire, which is nice.
Do you like that card?
So in a dirtily control deck, sure.
Okay.
You can also flicker it.
Well, the thing is, every time someone's played a Mortuary Mire and recurred like a Gurmag Angler, like that happened to me on Friday, and I was like, oh, thank God, he's not going to draw anything that can kill my Atog.
Sure. But, for example, recurring a Muldrifter.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot better.
Because then you're also getting a divination out of it.
Right.
So, you know...
Sorry, go ahead.
And then the sideboard is kind of more of the same. We got 2 Smash to Smithereens, 2 Negate, Bleak Coven, a Bojuka Bog, which I might actually move into the main. I know it's another ETB taps land, but I really like the fact you can just hose some decks game 1 with it. A Disrupt, which is a little spicy, a little interesting. It's a Force Spike for instants and sorceries, but you draw a card. We got an Ancient Grudge, the Last Duress, 3 Electrickeries, another Ghostly Flicker, and 2 Relic of Progenituses. Ugh, yeah, that's gross. I don't like how that sounds. A Relic of Progenituses? Relic of Progeniti?
Would you be better running Nile Spellbomb?
Arguably less, yes, because I have Recursion. I like Relic because it does deal with a few edge cases, like just keeping them off having a graveyard incrementally. For example, against Stompy is great because they're young wolves and all that stuff.
Right, that makes sense.
You know, you can keep them dead.
And so speaking to cards like Young Wolf, the 3 Pillar of Flame is not something I think... you don't have 3 bolts, right? You have 3 Pillar of Flame, which is good in cases like Young Wolf or any of those Undying cards, and kills Archaeomancers for Drake combo. So
it is a sorcery, which kind of hurts a lot. There is also Magma Spray, which can't go to the face, but still has the exile clause on it. So I don't know. You know, I feel like, yes, I played this deck because it's the exact type of deck that appeals to me. It's, you know, doing fair, dirtily things. My final round opponent told me at some point, you know, I'm just going to kill everything that isn't that Archaeomancer just so you have to win with a 1/2.
And then
Which is fair. Like, okay, I'm playing a dirtily deck. You don't want to, you know, put up with that for the entire night, right? But, so, I don't know. There's some tweaks I think I'd make. I'd prefer more instant speed removal. The Pillar of Flames might just become bolts. Sure, they do not deal with recursive creatures, but I think I'd just rather have instant speed and 1 more point of damage.
Could you make a case for Seagate Oracle in this deck?
Yeah, I guess I could. I don't know what I'd cut for Seagate. Just because I'm looking through the list. I could maybe cut the Duresses from the main board.
Duress seems weird main board. I guess in a very combo heavy meta, it's not super bad.
I think every time I had Duress in an opening hand game 1, I hit something.
Okay, there actually are kind of a lot of good targets. Like I've been Duressed, and you know had like a Prophetic Prism taken from me when that was really a card I needed to play. So yeah, it's not bad.
Like I think the average deck has enough action in hand that's non-creature, non-land. So I feel okay with it. I might cut them, though, just because we are kind of not super combo heavy at the moment and our local meta. So, you know, I could see popping in Seagate Oracles because they are a very efficient stopgap against most of the quote-unquote fair aggro lists. Because, yeah, not having a creature below 4 mana is a little rough, especially given that turn 4 is kind of a pivotal turn for most decks.
You have a lot of really good removal, though.
I do. Getting to play Terminate is amazing, by the way. Like, just having a Kill Things Dead button is real nice.
Yeah, Terminate is an amazing spell.
The catch is it does kind of price you into being red-black, which I'm not sure is the greatest color combination, but toss in some blue and it's okay. So I'm definitely going to tweak this a little bit, kind of go into the shop and fidget with it. I feel like it's going to be, you know, better once the meta kind of stabilizes back a little closer to what it used to be. But, you know, also first time with the deck, still learning, like, mulligan strats and all that good stuff. But I don't know. I was pleased with it. It felt good. When it got to do its thing, it felt great. Like, the moment that you start, like, flickering, even just, like, an Archaeomancer and a Prophetic Prism, that feels wonderful.
Yeah,
like,
Ghostly Flicker is artifact, creature, or land, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think of the artifact clause there.
Yep. I also might bump up the Archaeomancer count in this, just so there is the chance I can do like the Flicker 2 Archaeomancers to get back Flicker and something else. Because there were times where I was like playing Archaeomancers just to get back removal.
If you did that, then I think you should play Drake, because then you can infinitely flicker your Archaeomancers into your Drake and make infinite mana and then Galvanic Blast them.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I could just Galv Blast repeatedly. And I am running enough Karus where my mana's pretty good, all things considered. Like, there's a lot of double mana symbols in this deck, and there were a couple games where, I couldn't hit them on time, but most of the time it felt actually pretty serviceable. So I'm definitely going to tweak it, I'm glad to be on, like, a more control deck again. Like, Mono Red was getting a little tired, and also, like, as you said, tons of Mono Black control. Like, Mono Red Heroic is terrible when your opponent has 12 to 16 Edicts in their deck.
Yeah.
It's just miserable.
Also Disfigure.
Yeah, Disfigure. Although it does run, Apostle's Blessing, so you do get to get them sometimes, but, not always the greatest. But yeah, so that was our F&M. That was our deck tech. I'm going to try and do this more often, I think, like play Weird Brews and then we talk about them here. Maybe I can get you in on it. Maybe I can get you to play something that is an affinity.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The one time I did play Stompy, I went 4-0 though. So
yeah, see, there's other decks you're good with. You're good with aggro.
Call me the aggro man.
I feel like you'd also probably be pretty good with Delver Fiend. It's kind of a similar strategy to.
I did Goldfish that the other day, and I think I won on turn 4.
Yeah, it's very fast. I mean, that's the point of it. Got to go fast.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep. All right. So our discussion for today is going to be about things we don't have in Pauper. So I know we've talked about this in some amount before about like kind of the effects we're missing. And we had seen a thread on Reddit about what would a Pauper Planeswalker look like. And
well, we have news for you. It turns out they already exist.
They already exist. A, they already exist. B, you're never actually getting a Planeswalker. Like, you're never getting 3 free abilities on a permanent.
Right. So when I say they exist, I mean there are creatures at the common level who have multiple abilities that you can use once per turn. They are the Guild Mages from Mirage and the Apprentices from Invasion.
Yep, and they're all tricolor cards functionally. They're each, there's one for each color, and each one of them has the 2 abilities of their allied colors. So the white one has a green and a blue ability, and I think they're all 1 mana of that color. So these are kind of, I don't know. We were talking earlier, and we brought up the idea of like, would you ever print something like Deathrite in the format, Deathrite Shaman, because it's the closest creature to a Planeswalker.
Yeah, and Deathrite Shaman's an insane card, and there's absolutely no way we would ever get a card of that power level in our format, let alone a card where you cast it once and then you get to use its abilities for free every turn.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is the combo of even Tybalt, the Fiend-Blooded, the celebrated worst Planeswalker
Tibbers,
ever printed,
as he's affectionately known
yeah,
by his fans.
He's still too good. Like, he's just the fact that it's something they have to deal with, and it has 3 activated abilities that are functionally free. Last one's not really free, but 2 functionally free abilities is a lot of power for our format.
I mean, there's a reason that Planeswalkers, I was going to say, they've never been printed at rare, have they? Were the original Lorwyn ones rare?
The original Lorwyn ones were rare only by virtue of Mythic didn't exist.
Yeah, I caught myself there. Yeah, that's what I thought. But okay, so excluding this one printing where the type didn't even exist yet, Planeswalkers have always been Mythic. There's never been even an uncommon Planeswalker.
And Mark Rosewater has said that's because Mythics are supposed to feel Mythic.
Right. Well, also the
power
bad
level.
Planeswalkers are good.
Yeah.
In like limited.
Well, when I came back to the game, like that was the biggest thing I had to contend with, is figuring out how to play against Planeswalkers, because it's like, but I want to take my opponent to 0. I don't want to deal with this other additional player that's just been put in the game that's, I don't know, letting my opponent brainstorm every turn. Like, yeah. We're never getting a proper Planeswalker.
Look, in fact, there is a cycle of Planeswalkers that start out as creatures And they're still too good for the format.
Yeah. No, those were still all mythics. Like, it does help that the creature side is pretty good on most of them.
Right.
Like, none of them are, like, useless. So that definitely helps it, but we're never getting a Pauper Planeswalker. Please get over it. We will, however, though, potentially see it. I will refer to something as a Pauper Planeswalker when we get a creature with 3 activated abilities where, I don't know, maybe the first one's just a tap, the second one is a tap and pay some mana, and the third is tap and pay a bunch of mana. Yeah. I would maybe jokingly refer to that as a Pauper Planeswalker.
Yeah, but even the creatures, like Deathrite Shaman, too good. These apprentices and these guild mages are pretty much as close as you're going to get, and the reason that people don't play them is because they're 3 colors.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean,
but then you got to think a lot of planeswalkers are more than 1 color.
I mean, sure they are, but so here, let me hit you with this. So Stormscape Apprentice, one of the ones from Invasion, it's what, like a blue and 1 for a 1/1, and then a white and tap target creature, a black and tap, target player loses 1 life. And that seems like a fine draft common, but I'm not going into Esper for that effect. Like that,
right.
That seems rough.
Right. Yeah. So basically, what we're getting at is we just don't think there's design space at the common level. It would fly totally in the face of even a common creature with 3 activated abilities would fly in the face of everything that like Wizards' purported New World Order stands for. So yeah. It's like an interesting thought experiment to think about. Well, what if there were these insanely busted power level commons? And the answer is everyone would play them and they'd be incredibly good, and they would definitely change the format. But it is definitely a pipe dream to think that Wizards is going to print something like that at the common level.
Well, also, like you did say, it's fun to think about these busted cards. Like, we already get like the best cantrips, the best counter spells, the best burn. So like, it's not like we don't have power level already. Like, here, let me hit you with this. If we had a Pauper Planeswalker, I'm willing to bet the abilities are like +1, scry 1, like -3 draw card, and then like.
But even.
Like, still.
Yeah.
That's really good.
The reason they're too good is because you do all these abilities for free. Right? And like, maybe there is design space in our format for Planeswalkers.
It's extremely narrow, though.
But it's very narrow, and Wizards just isn't going to do it, unfortunately.
No.
I mean, if you, you're more than welcome to try. Like, nothing's stopping you from, trying to invent your own Planeswalkers and putting them in your decks and, like, jamming games with them. But I think you will find that the effects, unless you neuter the Planeswalkers extremely, unless you neuter them down a lot, I think you're going to find that they tend to dominate the game either way.
All right, so next on our list is duels with the basic land types and duels that enter untapped, as well as ETB untapped fetches. So the lands that we don't have access to, your duels, your shocks, your proper fetches versus like Evolving Wilds. And we've talked before about the Mirage fetch lands, which are ETB untapped. They're still slow by a turn. There's no life paid.
And they're uncommon, right?
They're uncommon currently. And honestly, I feel like they could downshift them to common and complete the cycle whenever they wanted, and it would be fine.
Those are fine. The duels with the basic land types and the ones that don't come and play tapped are probably not ever going to be common because those are all rares already, and their effects are just so good. And like, I would love for Pauper to have like perfect mana bases because then anyone can play whatever they want. It's something that really defines our format as the lack of a good mana base. So it would be interesting to see how decks. Brainstorming get played a lot more, I'm sure.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it would be interesting to see how these how decks would be different with fetches.
I mean, sure. I mean, it then starts looking, I feel, a little bit more like Legacy.
Yeah.
Like, we're playing a lot of the same cards. Our creatures are probably worse on a whole because of less activated abilities. They're usually bigger.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so here's the thing. I would love the Mirage fetches to happen just because I'm a control player and I'm willing to wait a turn, see what my opponent's on, and get that slight advantage.
If you play him turn 1, it's not really that bad, yeah.
If you play him turn 1, like, it just lets you see your opponent's first turn. If you're familiar with the format, you can make a pretty educated guess as to what's going on, First turn swamp is probably mono black. First turn, mountain into a goblin is definitely goblins.
What's also kind of interesting though is I don't think these lands really change a whole lot, and I'm not sure what decks would start running them over evolving or terramorphic, just because you're getting the tapped land either way anyway.
Well, so it just means that your turn 2 you have whatever mana you need, and it does let you be more reactive. For example, if you terramorphic, I mean, I guess it's a negligible point, but I do think there is something there. It's a very minor change, and it does let you run as many fetches as you need, which is the other thing, because right now you cap at 8, and no deck really wants that right now, and I'm not saying they will, but it's just slightly different enough. And yes, we can't grab, duels with them. So it's not great, but it's something, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of all there is to say about that. But next on the list is creature lands, and we realized there's never been one at Pauper.
Yeah, and
rarities.
We had a very long conversation about this the other day. We'll do our best to recreate it here. Basically, out of all the things on this list, let me just review. Yeah, out of all the things on this list, a creature land is definitely the most likely that could happen.
So we brought up, what was it, Stalking Stones?
Yeah, with Stalking Stones.
Stalking Stones is a land that taps for colorless, and you can tap 6 generic, and it turns into a 3/3 permanently, which is weird. I think it's the only creature land that permanently changes.
And I think we agreed that was actually a downside.
Yes, because the big upside of creature lands is, unless they have instant speed removal, or they've got good blockers, it's really hard to deal with them. And I feel like, especially in this format where people are already running like weird sideboard cards to deal with Tron, like people who play mono red run Raise, which is sack a land, blow up a land. Like we're not talking about like I don't know, like Price of Progress here. Like we're playing like weird punishers.
I mean, like probably one of the best land destruction in the format is probably Ancient Grudge. Wink, wink. Honestly, it's probably Stone Rain. Just
really?
Yeah, it's just like 3 mana kill a land. I mean, Raise is good, but we don't have effects like Ghost Quarter or Strip Mine or Wasteland, which are obviously the best.
Yes.
Sinkhole is probably banned if you're at your local store. It's not banned at ours, so I guess it would take the spot as best land destruction.
Yep.
But since land destruction is normally a 3 mana affair anyway, all the other ones, Thermokarst and Icequake, are double.
Yeah. I mean, if you're splashing into it, sure. Thermokarst, Icequake, Choking Sands, Rain of Tears. Oh wait, no, Rain of Tears is uncommon. Rancid Earth is the one I'm thinking of. Those are all double mana cost. But I think, some sort of, very fair, simple design for a creature land at common could happen.
I think we talked about 4 mana for a 2/2.
Yeah, like four generic for a 2/2.
Yeah, so something like that. We don't want these to be, and they wouldn't have any activated abilities. They'd be like Mutavaults that don't get any benefits from creature types.
Yeah.
Because like Mishra's Factory would be too good. The Nexi are just way too good. I believe Factory was printed as an uncommon.
Yes, it
several
is.
times. Has it ever been a rare?
I
feel like it has been like once,
I want to
maybe.
say it's one of those weird cases where it was on remember there was the 4 versions in Antiquities? I want to say it was something weird where like one of them's on the rare sheet and the other 3 aren't.
Gotcha. But it's historically been an uncommon. It's a very powerful uncommon. It's like a cube level uncommon.
It like I do not want that brought down into Pauper because I do not want to play against Pylo Counterspells.deck with 4 of those.
Even in Affinity, I would make room for 4 Mishra's Factories.
Yeah.
Like that just goes in almost any deck. It's just an incredible card.
Well, that's really the sign. Like you're willing to make room for it in an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
Control decks are going to love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing card. It would have to be an extremely expensive man land that would give you kind of a bad rate on your.
Oh yeah, we're not getting Treetop Village or anything like that.
We're not getting anything that good. Even those are too good. The ones that come in tapped and cost more than 1 mana to activate are too good.
Yeah. Well, actually, what about the red one? I think it's like 1 and a red. You get a
2 encampment.
You get like a 2/1 that might have first strike. I think
first strike. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's still a little good.
But I think maybe like red and a 1 for a 2/1 without first strike might not be super terrible.
No. I mean, so as soon as you would introduce a colored mana requirement into it, you do get to push it a little bit. Like, I don't know, maybe a 1/1 flyer that costs, 2 and a blue. Like, 2 and a blue for just a vanilla 1/1 flyer seems fine to me. Like, if someone wants to pay that every turn, go for it.
People would still play that card. That would still... I think people... Man lands are just really good. Like, no matter... what, or excuse me, creature lands are just really good no matter... Like, I'm trying to think of an unplayable creature land. I mean... Like, the ones in Standard are getting played in Standard right now.
Stalking Stones is pretty terrible, but like...
Okay, yeah.
But that was, I think, like the second or third example of a creature land. So, it did take them a while to, like, flesh it out and kind of see where they could go with it. But yeah, I think the Urza's Legacy ones are too powerful. Obviously, the ones that are currently at rare from Zendikar and Battle for Zendikar are too good.
Yeah, they have abilities and like keywords and
yeah. I think the most you can go is like French vanilla. So like your standard evergreen keywords, and even that I'm like I feel there's a way to abuse that. So maybe we get to see a cycle. Maybe we get to see a full like 5 color cycle of very simple, very low power level creature lands.
Part of me also wonders, maybe Pauper is a little more robust than we think it is. Maybe we could just plop down some untapped fetches and creature lands and everything would be okay. I'm not really sure.
Well, I mean, so with regards to the untapped fetches, all that does is increase, color diversity, and then it makes us less of a monocolored format. Like,
but Wizards just isn't going to do it, is the unfortunate thing. Like they've established that those effects are rare, let alone that the really good ones are on the reserve list.
Yeah.
But shock lands are never going to be common.
Well, here, let me hit you with this. Like, do you really want to face off against mono blue Delver splashing for, I don't know, a playset of bolts off of one fetch?
No, yeah, that seems a little too good.
Yeah, I think we're better served at this level of, mana bases.
And like these are all like cool ideas, but let's not forget other formats exist, and like part of what defines Pauper is the lack of these things as well. Like,
yeah, and I mean that's somewhat out of necessity.
Yeah,
but
it's not a bad thing, Like I wouldn't say it's like, but it's just a different way of playing Magic. And if you like all that stuff, then there is always Modern, Legacy, and Standard.
Also, I mean, like don't ever say that like 3-color can't be done. It's just tricky and it takes a while.
It takes a lot of artifact. I've noticed that the 3-color decks tend to be artifact-based decks.
Well, yeah, because Prophetic Prism is just some of the best fixing in the entire format.
Yeah, I love Prophetic Prism. Yeah, you guys wouldn't want Prophetic Prism to go away, would you? That's what would happen.
What do you mean?
If we had all these like awesome fixing available to us, people wouldn't play that card. And that card is beautiful. I have it in foil. Let me tell you, beautiful.
Actually, let me hit you with this. What about the Scrylands? The Theros Scrylands.
It's too good.
Too good? Just untutorable, ETB tapped, Scry 1?
They're rare for a reason.
I mean, sure, but I'm trying to think of like the least powerful set of duels.
The least powerful set of duels are these ones that come in tapped and they gain you a life. No, just kidding. They're the gates. The gates have got to be.
Sir, please let me educate you. Have you ever seen the pain lands from Tempest? They're pain lands that either ETB tapped or they don't untap every time you tap them for colored mana.
Okay, those got to be the worst.
Yeah, no, they're aggressively bad.
Those were.
Those were rare.
I'm also okay. Yeah, that's another thing I want to bring up. I'm not saying that like, this effect isn't like this effect is way too powerful. Also, like I've said that a few times for certain things, but I think another thing that we really have to examine is that the precedence that Wizard has set is that these are rare effects.
Sure, yeah, and at the end of the day, I can understand Wizards as a business, and for them, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to put really good fixing at common because
these are very sought after, very powerful cards.
You don't sell boosters if you've got original duels at common.
Yeah.
Like, it does not generate the booster buying impulse from their target market.
And what does it say that these cards were rare before rarity was even an understood thing by a lot of people?
Yeah, no,
like the duels have always been rare.
I think Wizards is never giving us drastically better duels.
Well, I guess here's a question: Would you? Well, even this seems too good. An unfetchable duel that comes in untapped and still taps for 2 colors of mana. Wizards just doesn't make cards like that that don't have some sort of drawback other than the original cycle, right?
Double Pain Land. Let me hit you with that. Taps for colorless, or you can tap for 1 of 2 colors of mana for 2 life.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about those. Those still seem well. Those are not basically tri-lands, also.
So I'm saying like, because right now it's 1 life on the Pain Lands. Let's bump it up to 2, because for example, multicolor aggro decks won't care about that.
Yeah, then they 2 life seems almost unplayable, because then it just makes goblins super duper good.
It makes goblins super duper good, but it does actually enable like a 2-color aggro deck to be reliable in its mana, which I think because it takes the 2-color aggro decks and gives them a bad monocolor aggro matchup, but it gives them a better matchup against the control decks and the combo decks, because you're going to be able to hit all your mana.
I can see an argument for that, but again, the design space is rare.
Yes, I want to thank Wizards for giving us guild gates and then better guild gates.
Yeah,
but
and look, the better guild gates, the gain lands were printed in EMA. Like Wizards has said that this is a bar that we're comfortable with for these lands, especially in the limited environment. Which is the other reason these effects can't be common, is because of
that's true. Unless they do like a super multicolored block like Alara again, I don't expect us to get better fixing.
Yeah, and no, you know what? Aren't layers common?
The layers? No, they are uncommon.
Okay.
I would be totally okay with the layers getting downshifted. For those who don't know, the layers are a cycle from Planeshift, and they're each named for one of the 5 legendary Elder Dragons from Invasion. And each one of them is a shard? Yes, a shard. So 3 colors that are all next to each other on the color pie. They all have the subtype layer, and it says when it comes into play, you have to return a
non-layer.
A non-layer? Yeah, it's not even untapped. So it's kind of like a Karoo, because because you can tap that land for mana. The layer comes in untapped, and then it taps for one of 3 colors. So it does put you behind on like total lands on the board, but you're not really losing the tempo at all.
Like that's still extremely powerful for an uncommon, I would say. Because these are not legendary lands either.
No, they're not. But I don't know. I feel like a complete cycle of those with the shards as well doesn't unbalance stuff, because it's still a non-negligible downside. Is
Rupture Spire common?
It is.
So Rupture Spire is a card you could play. People already play Shimmering Grotto.
Yeah, Shimmering. So Shimmering Grotto you pay more for over time, which is why I think you wind up with it in Tron. Mm-hmm. Rupture Spire does have the downside of it really does just wreck your turn 2. Because you got to pay 1 when it comes in, and it comes in tapped.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's no good answer here, because you could just say, whatever, we'll just put original duels into Pauper. And then it's like, that's not healthy for the format at all. And by the same standard, like, even the Pain Lands are a little bit too good. I wouldn't mind them. Like, I would love to see the decks that show up if you start having, like, good, efficient ETB untapped duels. But I also kind of don't want to face, like, a million different, like, 3-color aggro decks. That's kind of not my jam, but I don't know. So one of the next ones we've got listed here is a proper Wrath effect. Like an actual Wrath of God style, destroy all creatures.
No questions asked.
No questions asked.
It does not exist in our format.
And what we have instead is we have board damage effects, where everything gets hit, and a couple of board shrinking effects. So, you got your Nausea and Shrivel, which give every creature -1/-1. And you've got like your Electrickeries, your Crypt Rats, even Car's Justice. Most of these are pretty format stable. The only thing we've got that's kind of close to an actual Wrath is Fade Away.
And Fade Away is an incredible card. For those of you who don't know, it's 3 mana. You have to pay a mana for each of your creatures, or you sacrifice a permanent. So you can get them when they're tapped out. It's a lot of fun.
It's interesting, too, because it's very good against certain matchups. Like, if the Elves player taps out or just doesn't have mana available, you can use this to blow up like 10 creatures.
What's also really interesting is they have to sacrifice a permanent. So if they have like
Yes.
4 creatures out and like
They can choose to pop some lands.
yeah. So you can really get people if they have like I guess you can't really ever get them like that bad.
Well, so the most interesting play is against Boggles, because sometimes newer players won't realize that Fade Away says permanent, and when it gets played against them, they'll sacrifice Boggles. They'll sacrifice actual hexproof things, and that's not what that card does at all.
And then you also put Aura Flux into play, and then you have a real good time, and your opponent's not.
Yeah. But apart from these, like, there's not a whole lot of proper Wrath effects, because, Pestilence and Crypt Rats exist, right? Both of them require you to be pretty close to mono black, and even then, like, you're getting hit as well, your opponent's getting hit as well, which is a good thing. But no one wants to pay 8 mana into Crypt Rats to kill an Ulamog's Crusher.
Right, and the most popular one here is going to be Electrickery, right?
Yeah, Electrickery finds its way into almost any red deck's board, because it does just such a great job of dealing with the swarm-style decks. Like Goblins has an okay time against it, because it does have the Sledders and the Mog Raiders to sacrifice creatures that are dying anyway to protect others.
And
but I don't know. I definitely think it's the most common. So I've always been an advocate of us getting a Massacre effect.
Right. We were talking about that before. Although Wizards will never make a card that just destroys all the creatures on the board at a common. Again, the design space is reserved for rares. At the uncommon slot, we have seen a lot of cards like Massacre, where all the creatures on the board get -2/-2, or in Drown and Sorrow's case, I think it's -3.
No, Drown and Sorrow is -2/-2 for 1 and 2 black, and you get to scry 2 when you're done with it.
Right. Well, that's not happening in Pauper. But an effect like Eye Blight Massacre is probably the one that's the most even, where all non-elves get -2/-2. If you even remove that elf clause, all creatures get -2/-2.
I believe that's a card. I don't remember the name of it.
Eye Blight Massacre.
No. There's a card that doesn't have the elf text. Like, there's one that's just 2 and 2 black. All creatures get -2/-2.
Massacre? The original one?
No.
Okay.
There's one without the alt casting cost. It's just that effect. Nothing else.
Okay, I actually don't know that one then. If that exists, that I could see as a 4-drop common Wrath effect. Massacre itself is probably too good because it has a free element to it. And the
More specifically, it has a free element against white decks.
yeah, which is where you would want to play Massacre anyway, so that seems a little too good. Not like super duper busted or anything, but just like for nothing, you can just wipe their whole board. Although, to be fair, in the mono black deck, it would also wipe your whole board some of the time.
Yeah.
So
I definitely, I don't know. It's a tricky thing where, it's called Infest, and it's actually 1 and 2 black. All creatures get -2/-2. It's uncommon. That is the original version of this, and we've got like about 10 versions of it over the years. So I don't know.
For 3 mana, I think it's too good. For 4 mana, I think it'd be fine.
Well, at 4 mana, why don't you just play Evenkar's Justice, which you can recur sometimes? How many indestructible creatures do we really have in this format?
That's true.
Like, I think the big thing for me would be a 3 mana partial Wrath, and I'd be okay with it. But clearly that's something they don't like, because we haven't gotten it despite these other effects existing. And so we're stuck kind of with the shrivel nausea kind of stuff. Maybe some sort of effect like... What about like a Black X spell? Where it's like, I don't know, like
Toxic Deluge, but with mana?
Yeah, Toxic Deluge, but with mana. Like, I don't know, maybe black 1X, and then they get -X.
That seems good. That
Well,
seems fine.
The reason I tried to get like 3 and then X is that way, it's not just going to be better than Evenkar's Justice.
Which is a very good card.
Yes, it's a buyback was probably a mistake. I think that's a fair thing to say, or at least it was not costed aggressively enough. So I was thinking, because that way, if you pay 4 mana into it, everything gets -1/-1. That's not so great. If you put 5 mana into it, everything gets -2/-2. As soon as you hit 6, then -3/-3 is killing a lot of stuff, And in the control deck, if you can hit 7 mana, like
they can easily.
-4/-4 pretty much kills everything except Gurmag Anglers.
Yeah. Okay, that's a card I could get behind. 7 mana Wrath is like,
Yeah.
if you haven't won the game by then and they have a huge payoff card like that, like it feels bad, but like, it happens. It's Magic. I don't want to be like, oh, that's too good. Wizards will never do that, and like stifle like what could be a good card in our format. That seems pretty fairly costed. It only goes in really like the control decks who are the ones who need the Wrath effect anyway. It'd be amazing in teachings, obviously.
Yeah. And obviously I'm thinking like sorcery speed. And
it would not be an instant.
Instant speed Wrath, bad times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely like a design space that they could maybe explore at some point. And I would love to be able to have like, although I guess then like I guess the only difference then is that you could play this in teachings where you can't really play mono black, or you can't play rats or pestilence because they don't have enough black lands to really support those as vigorously as they need to. But I don't know. I think I'd be interested to see something like that. I wouldn't want like Mutilate, the one where it's creatures get -X/-X, where X is the number of swamps you control.
Yeah,
that's a little too much. I think it was downshifted at some point actually to uncommon, but I might be wrong on that. But I definitely want to see like some sort of better Wrath effect for clearing the board, just to give control a little bit of a boost, and then maybe it also gets played in some of the more mid-range decks. Like, that's the thing. There's this careful balance of I kind of want something that, a kitty-style deck could play.
You could play it as a one-of in mono black. Like, a Wrath is good when you're behind.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's good when you're behind.
Yeah.
So.
And I think I like the idea of it being an X, so that way it's modal, and you can you can get those nice little finesse movements where, you kill all of their stuff and you have, like, one thing left. Or, like, you don't kill everything of theirs, but you kill the stuff that was going to, like, that you couldn't already trade with in combat.
Right.
So, yeah, I definitely think we could benefit from that. Last on the list, though, good tutor effects.
Yes.
So we're a little light on tutors.
We have Fierce Empath and Mystical Teachings, right?
Fierce Empath, Mystical Teachings. Locally, we allow Merchant Scroll. No one's managed to break that yet.
Well, with caveat High Tide being banned, what are you going to get?
I don't know, because the big thing is it's a sorcery.
It's a sorcery that gets blue instants.
Yeah, it's very, very narrow.
Yeah, so it's not like this is Vintage where you can just do that, go get
Ancestral.
Ancestral, or something stupid. In fact, I actually don't think they play Merchant Scroll a lot in Vintage. It's not like in Legacy, right? Where you could just go get Force of Will. I don't know, any of these amazing cards, right? So
we also have the Transmute mechanic from, what would that have been? Was that original Ravnica?
Original Ravnica.
Ooh, that's a little bit of a tongue twister there. Which was, I think it's stock across all cards. It's going to be a 3-mana sorcery speed tutor where you tutor for something with a CMC equal to the Transmute card, and you discard that card. And I think it varied. If it was a mono black card, it was 1 and 2 black. If it was a blue card, it was 1 and 2 blue. And there's a couple, I think Perplex and Dimir Infiltrator are the only ones where they were black and blue, and then it's a black and a blue.
Yeah, it was the Dimir mechanic.
Yeah, and that's like a very, very niche kind of tutor, because it kind of forces you to say, this is only going to be an extra copy of X, Y, and Z.
And I think we spoke a little bit earlier, the only one that's actually playable as a card is Muddle the Mixture.
Yes, because Muddle the Mixture, the actual text on it, besides the Transmute, is counter an instant or sorcery, which is not great at 2 blue, but playable.
And you're playing that in... that card gets played in Turbo Fog.
It gets played in Turbo Fog. I want to say there's something else I saw it played in. Some weird like niche combo deck that needed to... the Freed list from Rags to Riches 2, I think.
The Freed from the Real combo. I think that deck tends to play Drift of Phantasms more because Freed is a 3-mana spell.
Yes.
As is Axebane.
But I want to say that list, maybe it wasn't that list, but I think I've seen a list for Freed running Muddle. And actually, so Drift of Phantasms is another one to bring up. It's what, an 05 defender with flying?
Yeah, it's terrible.
O5 is like a non-negligible body, and it does keep Delvers at bay. So if you're in a combo deck where you're trying to tutor up combo pieces, sometimes you just play it, right?
I don't know, because if you play that card, you're not tutoring the combo piece, right?
I mean, sure, but if for example your opponent's on mono blue and the only thing they basically kept the one threat hand where the threat was Delver.
But alternatively, you just combo and win. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, if you have all the other combo pieces, sure, you just go for the combo, right? But I don't know. I'm just trying to find a situation. Those are our only real tutoring effects, and most of them are narrow or expensive or both. So I kind of pitched the idea. There is the Visions Mirage cycle of tutors, which were all 1 mana. They include such all-stars as Vampiric Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, Worldly Tutor, and what's the blue one? Is it Personal or is it Mystical? Okay.
And just to be
we're not saying these are good for Pauper.
They just reprinted these at Mythic. So.
Yes, they just reprinted these at Mythic. But worth noting is all of them tutor to top of library.
Yes, which we think is important.
Yes, because it means you don't get it this turn unless you're willing to burn another spell to draw that card. So what I'm getting at here is
sorcery speed.
Well, those ones are instants.
No, but in Pauper they would have to be
in Pauper, a top of deck tutor with a card type attached that maybe costs 3 and is sorcery speed feels fine to me. Because we were talking earlier and I was like, and you said, what was it? If you had to pay 3 mana to tutor up a Mirror Enforcer and put it on top of your library, you'd be fine with that?
Yeah, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, and I mean, for example, we're in a format with lots of efficient draw spells, so, you could get that card this turn.
And then Thought Cast.
Yeah, but you're using 2 cards to get 1 card you really need. You're going to spend at least 4 mana to do that. I guess you could spend 3 if you had the Gataxian Probe in hand.
And I guess the other thing here is, you're not going and getting, Yawgmoth's Will or something with these effects, right?
No. You're probably
getting, a creature.
You're probably getting an efficient creature. You're probably getting a combo piece. And that's about it. I mean, if we stuck to them in the right chunks of the color pie, let's say green gets a creature, red can get artifact maybe, or just an instant.
Sorcery.
Sorcery?
It would be a sorcery.
All right. Green gets a creature. Red gets a sorcery. Black gets... They
gets anything and you lose 20
Actually,
life.
black gets an instant.
What does blue get?
Artifact.
White.
And white gets enchantment.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
At 3 mana, top of the library, you're going to have to jump through some hoops. But I feel that does help out the kind of rickety combo decks that aren't quite there and can, spike a tournament every now and then.
One land spy.
Not one land spy. No.
Make one land spy great again.
Oh. Why? I should
news cycle.
I should get that made into a hat. Just something terrible and ignorant. But my point being, 3 mana keeps it in line with the transmute things. You keep them narrow-ish. And top of library, I actually might not even mind him as instants.
Okay, yeah, fair. My problem with it being an instant is it favors the control decks so heavily.
I mean,
because they just don't have to do anything, and then end of your turn they can do something.
I guess that's true. I guess that is really why they're so great as cards, because they're instants. You play them on your opponent's end step, and then you get the card next turn.
Yeah, and they cost 1 mana.
Yes. Hence why I was like, 3 mana seems a little safer, and not letting black have the demonic tutor effect where they pay life like Vampiric Tutor does. I don't know. I feel like I could be okay with those. It does, it's kind of like card fixing for each color. It's kind of card draw in a way. I don't know.
What do you think of Diabolic Tutor, which was an uncommon 4 mana tutor any card sorcery?
Ooh.
With black too.
Yeah, it's really, really narrow. And
no, it tutors anything.
Well, narrow in the decks it can go into.
Yeah.
It's mono black. And
it could go in teachings.
I'm just going to say, do you really, really want your opponent tutoring gray merchants?
No, but I'm just saying, like, that was an example of an uncommon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Demonic Tutor was an uncommon. That's an example of when they tried to fix Demonic Tutor, and I don't think that card was playable in its standard environment.
I mean, it's a go-to for people building like budget cubes or like budget EDH decks because it is a 25-cent card versus a $20 card.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, I don't know, Diabolic Tutor is pretty pricey at sorcery speed, so actually I don't really hate it. I think maybe if they did a reprint where you revealed it,
yeah,
that would be fine for Pauper, because I think a big thing with that is just being able to get the answer that your opponent might not know what it is.
Right. And Teachings is a very good tutor spell because it tutors an instant for 4 mana and you get it a second time.
Well, also everyone forgets this. It can get a creature with flash. There's nothing worth getting with it, but
Ambush Viper, play green.
There was someone who was, I forget what it was. I saw a list that was like, I want to say Bug Teachings, and it was running some huge 6/6 flash green creature from like Time Spiral, and it was just basically like end game when you've kind of got everything on lock, you Teachings for a 6/6 that you play out.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah, no, it seems fine, but I don't know. I feel that we could get a decent tutor, just not demonic tutor or vampiric tutor or even worldly tutor. Like, we could get something that does help decks have a little bit more consistency, does let combo decks do a little bit better, because while, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, we have a certain shall go unnamed combo deck.
I've already said it a couple times.
You did. I didn't, though. Point of pride.
Okay.
I'm sure I actually said it, and someone's going to leave a comment about that. But once combo winter calms down or gets dealt with, I feel like we can start talking about how to make combo better again. So
make combo great again.
Make combo great again. Make. Oh God, I'm trying to come up with some of the old combo deck names because they always get the dumbest names.
Tricks.
Make Cephalid Breakfast great again.
And that's why they call it Cephalid Breakfast. I'm Rich Hagon.
All right. So that's pretty much all the time we've got for today. We're right around an hour. Thanks to Pat's Games for giving us a place to play weekly Pauper. Thanks to L for the use of his song Quantitative as our theme music. His music can be found on SoundCloud under the name LLL. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We are on iTunes as well as Google Play Music. If you subscribe to us on iTunes, we would love if you left a review for us. It really helps us out. If you have an idea for a discussion topic or deck list you want us to discuss, you can either use the contact form on our website or email us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. I'm Michael Petchek.
And I'm Adrian Guarzales.
Signing off for Color Commentary.